Welcome to Save As Ability, a podcast to educate and inform you about disability employment issues. My name is David Darkangelo, and I'm your disability policy expert. Hey everybody, welcome back for another episode of Save As Ability, or should I say part two. This is a two-part episode. It's called A Better Deal. We did part one last week. We're doing part two this week, where I really kind of break out the nuts and bolts of the plan here. All right. So we're going to get right to it. All right. So now, as a level set, if you remember what we're talking about here, my plan is basically calling for a reallocation of existing dollars. And the goal is to improve employment outcomes for Americans with disabilities. So that's like the starting point. All right. That's the purpose. Is we're making hiring a cash positive thing where we're paying for verified outcomes here, okay? That's what we're trying to do. And why are we trying to do it? Well, we have a rational basis with which to do this because working age adults with disabilities, there's, 21 million of them, 22 million of them, something like that. And yet the employment to population ratio for people with disabilities is around 38.4%. For people without disabilities, it's around 74.5%. So you can see the chasm that exists there. It's lower labor force participation by people with disabilities, and then it's higher unemployment rates for people with disabilities. Neither of those is where we want to be, all right? Now, just one thing, because I did get some feedback last episode. I said, these things aren't working. Okay, let's amend that and give it some measure, okay? When I'm saying they're not working, I'm saying they're not working well enough because these gaps exist, okay? So the existing systems, have they worked a little? Yeah. Are they well-intentioned? Yeah. Are the people working on it trying their best? Yes, yes, yes. That isn't what we're talking about here. What I'm talking about is a moonshot, a quantum leap, a transformational thing that can happen, that can see tremendous amounts of individuals with disabilities entering our labor force and then becoming employed. Okay? All right. The bottom line is that this is not some small market we're talking about. And really, this market, I believe, has been suppressed. And, all of this policy friction and all of the existing programs, rather than help, have evolved to inhibit. And once you get stuck in that cycle of relying on public benefits with the cash benefits, with the healthcare, with the housing, with all these other things, it becomes this disincentive to go back to work or to re-enter the labor force. All right. So we're trying to change that. We're trying to address that. And to me, the fix is to convert uncertainty and existing resources into certainty and reallocation of existing resources. Again, I'm not proposing to all of a sudden, let's spend more public money. Again, that hasn't worked to the levels we need it to work. That is not the answer. The answer is we're going to reallocate. And then in the long run, we're actually going to free up dollars because it's going to be less spending on SSI, SSDI, all of these other programs right now that are very costly, that are inefficient for what we're trying to do, okay? Because you're getting people at these low wages, federal poverty level. We already talked about that, where if you get people to work, they can make more money. And they can start contributing, all right? So contributing to the taxes and everything else and better ideas and all of that stuff. So I've come up with 5 strategies here that when you add them all up, I believe can bring tens of thousands of individuals with disabilities into the labor force each year, more than is coming in now. And then of that, higher rates of employment as well. So these outcomes are going to improve for the people with disabilities, for our employers and business community, both small business and large business, by the way, is what I'm solving for. And as a result, America is going to rise and America is going to benefit. All right, let's get right into these 5 strategies. Now, I've tried to kind of rank these, but these are not necessarily in like some ranked order. All right, I've tried to kind of prioritize based on like their impact. All right, but just to set that. All right, the first one is to make hiring cash positive with what I'm calling a new wage reimbursement model. okay? So basically what we're going to do is we're going to look at existing programs, particularly the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, WIOA, Title I, which indicates there's on-the-job training. So what we're doing is we're taking an existing thing and we're repurposing it, all right? And this wage reimbursement, it right now is typically between, the rules say between 50%, 75%. We're going to use 50% here just to give you the round numbers and for our projections. So the existing public dollars, the aggregate amount, and I'm getting this from this, the Senate Appropriations Committee had come out with something not too long ago. These are the numbers I'm using. For adults, you're looking at somewhere around $900 million. For the youth, again, a little bit more than that, $950 million. And then the dislocated worker fund is over $1 billion. So in total, we're talking about $2.9 billion that Congress already allocates, okay? Now, this is for all individuals. So what I would say is let's extrapolate 12% for working age people with disabilities, okay? So my simple better deal approach is let's require a dedicated slice of these training dollars, around 12%, to be paid directly to employers for on-the-job training, wage reimbursement for all these new disability hires that they're going to bring in. And we're going to expand the definition. So we're talking about mentoring, interning, interviewing, hiring on-the-job training, and then even promotions as well, okay? So instead of routing most of these dollars through the intermediaries that we've been using, which again, has not produced the results that we need, it's going to go to employers. We're going to go directly to employers and allow them to compete with the existing infrastructure that's already there. So this impact is if we direct 12% of the $2.9 billion into disability targeted on-the-job training, you can roughly say around $3,900 per hire, okay? And the great part about this is this works for part-time workers, this works for full-time workers, this works for salaried workers, this works for people who are working on tips, this works for all different types, okay? So at $5,850 per supported hire, which is the high end, and $3,900 per supported hire, which is the low end, what you see there is the amount of people with disabilities that are impacted is in the thousands. Even if you use very conservative math, that right there alone will bring thousands, if not tens of thousands, individuals off the sidelines into the labor force, and then once they're in the labor force, employed, okay? Then when you include like the spillover effects and all the retention and wage progression, you can really see how all of a sudden this is a huge benefit to these people with disabilities, to the employers, and to Americans. And Americans in two ways. One, because we're getting the talent out of these people. Two, though, because now we're taking them off these benefit programs, or we're glide pathing them, out of the payment programs. That's a little bit of a preview for a coming strategy. All right, strategy 2 is we're going to use another existing program, vocational rehabilitation. I used to be a state vocational rehabilitation director when I was commissioner of the Master Commission for the Blind. So what we're going to do here right now, that's a closed system. The only ones that could get dollars out of that are these state VR agencies or these employer networks. And again, has it worked? It's worked a little, but it hasn't worked to the scale we need it to. So we're going to introduce competition here. We're going to open VR dollars to private employers and base it on outcome VR employment goals, okay? So for every outcome, we're going to pay for that outcome. That's where the money will flow. We're paying for performance here, all right? And here's the best part about it is this is already available. All we need to do is change some policies, change some regulations. This can be done without acts of Congress, okay? So the VR rules explicitly allow VR agencies to provide training and services to employers who have hired or are interested in hiring individuals with disabilities, okay? So again, we're using these existing public dollars. Now, the way VR dollars work is there's a big federal portion that comes in and then the states match it. and it's roughly like a 75-25 thing. I forget the exact amounts. It might be 78, it might be 22 or something like that. But basically percentage-wise, okay, it's like a matching program. So what we're gonna do is we're going to right now there's about $3.7 billion in this system right here, okay? So if we free up even a portion of that, all right, from the federal side, which is about, I think it's like $4.5 billion, and then the states come in with their match. What we're gonna do is we're gonna create a standardized employer-facing VR system where there's now competition for these private employers to get involved and start using those VR dollars so that they can hire these individuals with disabilities. We're gonna pay only for verified outcomes, okay? We're gonna be within the wage threshold, but we're gonna allow eligible costs such as onboarding, job coaching, assistive technology, short-term training, retention supports, all of that currently exists. Now, these private employers, when they see that, they're gonna be like, wait a minute, okay, now I'll invest in a whole department. Now I'll do this, and we'll start scaling up. Because right now, most of these I talk with these large employers, these large private employers all the time. Right now, you're lucky if they have a few people dedicated to this, okay? They have like a general HR department that is huge, right? But specifically people in those organizations that understand all of the VR stuff, it's a very small amount typically. So basically what we're doing is we're making now all of these mini employer networks. We're going to expand the definition so that not just these traditional employer networks have a chance to get that money, but really any employer. Small business, large business, doesn't matter. We're going to open it up because the goal is to get people with disabilities into the labor force and then employed. All right? So let's just do some simple math here. If we direct just 10%, which is a modest amount, by the way, we're talking about like $400 million a year. So if we want to say like, I don't know, $5,000 per retained hire, you're looking at 74,000 individuals with disabilities coming into the labor force. All right, maybe it's 10,000, you double it. So now it's a real incentive for most businesses. Like they pay attention to that. Like, wait a minute, now I'm combining it with the other money I'm getting through the first strategy. Now with this 10,000, that'll bring 37,000 individuals with disabilities into the labor force and get them employed, okay? So again, now all of a sudden you can see that over time, this more than pays for itself. This is a generator. This is a economic boost for America in so many ways. All right, so again, the impact here is thousands, if not tens of thousands of retained jobs that will come annually from using dollars that already exist. All right, strategy 3 is this is my predictability strategy. I'm calling it the work ramp, all right? Because there's two things. There's the money, but there's also the terms. This is really about the terms. So what we're trying to do here is we're not punishing work. We want to really have, if a beneficiary starts verified work, they get to keep their public benefits for a 5-year period. You've heard me talk about this before. We're going to make this predictable because right now, strategy 3 is dealing directly with this cliff effect and this perverse incentive or this disincentive, however you want to put it, of if I'm an individual with a disability and I'm utilizing SSI or SSDI or both, and housing vouchers and food benefits and all of the panoply of the programs that are out there. If I go $1 over the limit of any of those programs, that you fall off the cliff and you lose all of your benefits. And it's like, why do I want to wake up early to take a bus to go to work that pays me minimum wage when I can, stay home and get more? Like this deals with that. So what we're saying here, this rule is easy to apply. In year 1, the individuals with a disability will keep 100% of their benefits. 100%. Then in year 2, it goes to 80%. In year 3, it goes to 60%. In year 4, it goes to 40%. In year 5, it goes to 20%.
This phases it out. This provides that security. This gives people a glide path because now you're 5 years into it and you've got a work history. Now you're 5 years into it and you realize, hey, I'm much better off making this private wage. I'm making much more money now than I would be if I had stayed on the benefit programs. This phases it out. And if still working, you just keep going on that glide path and now you're in the private sector because you don't even need the benefits anymore. All right. But if something intercedes there and either you're not performing at work or, the work isn't for you and you need to change, fine, we can do reinstatement. You can go back to your benefits. And then you can come back in and out, not like the programs now where it's so cumbersome. You almost got to hire a lawyer. Yeah, it takes like so much time. This alone will unlock so much potential and so many Americans will now be able to participate. Okay? When the system feels dangerous, people don't take part. And that's what you have right now. They're fearful of losing their benefits because then how do they pay for rudimentary things like food, clothing, shelter? How do they do that? They can't. So we're taking that away. We're reducing that risk with this strategy here. All right? I believe that this alone could add somewhere between 10 and 15,000 individuals a year into the labor force and working, okay? And then long term, again, after the 5 years, and then by the way, if this works, which I think it will, then this becomes the new normal. Now, all of a sudden, all of these fears that all of these inspector generals have and all of the reports done by the Social Security Trust Fund and all that stuff, all that goes away. All that math changes. Because now those individuals are not staying on Social Security for 40 years, 50 years, whatever it is. Okay? All right. One point here is, and some of the things I use to build my data is the Social Security OIG. It's their Office of the Inspector General reports. It reported that last year, or the last year that there was data available, okay, which was fiscal year 22. Okay, so 5 years ago, actually. There was approximately 72 billion in improper payments. And so the money is there is my point. Like, what are we doing? These systems are so big. Like, we can reallocate these dollars into getting the talents out of these individuals with disabilities, helping them, helping the employers. So it's a win-win. All right, let's move on. We're running out of time. All right. The next thing is, excuse me. All right, my fourth strategy is what we're going to do is we're going to fund reasonable accommodations, reasonable modifications, similar to like a small ticket insurance policy, okay? The return on investment here is great because basically you're unlocking all of the dollars that are being spent by business right now. They don't feel like they're investing in anything. Now, this gives them a chance to invest and they can make all of their infrastructure universally designed. And when that happens, yeah, it helps the people with disabilities. Guess what? That usability then helps the business and all of their customers. All right. So really what we're talking about here, and we're basing this off of, data that we've gotten over the years from ODEP and the Job Accommodation Network, it indicates that the median one-time cost of a reasonable accommodation is somewhere around $300. Okay. So what we're going to do, though, is we're not going to have that just be like this one-off that it is now. And, you need to know people who understand the ADA and stuff like that. No. Now we're going to make it this simple, all-encompassing thing where everybody just gets credit. Every employer, large, small, doesn't matter. You hire a person with a disability, you get that credit. Okay? $1,000 a year, every year. Okay? That's easy. And that's something that will totally reward universal design principles. We will see innovation from that. And the spillover benefits for people without disabilities will be tremendous as well. Okay? And that's a simple thing. We can do that now. We can do that now and get gains off of it. And that doesn't even cost anything or hardly anything. All right. So finally, strategy 5, as we wrap up here, is to reauthorize and modernize the work opportunity tax credit system that's already on the books. Okay. Right now, it's too small. The amount is not big enough to be able to get employers that interested in it. So what I'm calling for is a sliding scale. Okay. Now, so it's $2,400 is the standard maximum credit right now for many qualifying hires when the employee works 400 plus hours. 40% up to 6,000 in the first year wages. Okay. So there's like a floor and a ceiling there. What I'm proposing is do away with the floor and the ceiling and just have one true sliding scale that then deals with your entry level wages all the way up to your executive wages as well. Because the way it's structured right now, the only companies that are interested in this is like minimum wage hires. Because anything else other than that, the amount isn't big enough to incent business to want to do it, particularly small business who doesn't want to do all this government paperwork and bureaucracy and all that. All right. So my better deal upgrade basically doubles the floor and makes it almost unlimited ceiling. Okay. Because what we're going to do is we're really going to incentivize the work opportunity tax credit. All right. So for disability eligibility hires, we're going to still keep the 400-hour threshold, but we're going to we're going to increase the standard maximum per eligible hire amount. That alone, right there, that's an existing program. That can be done, I think, in regulation. I don't even think that needs a law change. Okay? That's just basically saying to the IRS, hey, we got to modernize this. We've got to come up to speed here to make sure we're getting our people with disabilities into the labor force. So, all right, those are my 5 things. Let me conclude now. Really what we're trying to do here is we're trying to use not each of these individual. Let's use all of these at the same time. If we do this, we will create a moonshot for people with disabilities. We will create so many opportunities for people with disabilities. All of the other things that we've talked about here, the Social Security Trust Fund, being insolvent, or, the gap in labor force participation and unemployment rate, all of those will improve significantly. And it can happen in a short period of time. All right. Now, I don't want to hear the cynics out there and the people, AI is going to take all these jobs. Now, stop. That's the technology companies trying to get you to think that. Will it impact? Yeah, all it means is jobs are going to push out in some other area that we don't know of yet. All right. Will there be disruption? Yeah, but there's already disruption. The only constant is change. This is a positive change. This will put tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of individuals, of Americans with disabilities into our labor force so that they can earn more money, so that they can be more independent, more self-determined. That's the goal here. All right. So tell me what you think, where I got it right, where I got it wrong. I know I'm at the 50,000 foot level here. I do have details here, and it's hard to cover all of that in this podcast while we're trying to get these large concepts across. But the goal is, let's make competition. Let's bring in the private sector. We can do this. We can improve outcomes for Americans with disabilities, for employers, for America. This can help everybody in our country. So I really believe that. It's David D'Arcangelo, another episode of Save Visibility. I hope you have a great day.
For more information about disability employment issues, please visit our website, disabilityemploymentsolutions.com. The Save As Ability podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, our YouTube channel at Disability Policy Expert, or wherever you stream your podcasts. Subscribe, stream, rate, and review our shows. Your ratings and reviews help our show reach new audiences. Produced by Pod Pro Entertainment. Save As Ability lives within a network of podcasts located at podproentertainment.com. #TheNewRadio. Again, my name is David D'Arcangelo, and I'm your disability policy expert. Until next time. Thank you. I hope you have a great day.